What are the requirements and recommendations for owners and developers when they are starting a CDE? Let's take a look. Deciding on which CDE to consider involves going through a list of items which have been proved to be essential in many projects and converted them into best practices. For selecting a proper CDE, there are initial questions which need to be answered. For example, why do we even need a CDE? Which is the main areas that needs to be covered? Does the company count on an information management or data strategy aligned with the core business? Selecting the right vendor is essential to enable the CDE to be properly set up. In terms of that, we can look at a few of the considerations. Firstly, partnership. CDE implementation is a process, and it goes beyond the simple selection of a system. Companies should choose carefully, looking for more than just functional scope. As in any journey, you want to count on the right partner, someone to guide you and fully committed to your success. Expertise. Does the vendor have the necessary experience in the field? Is it specialized in the engineering and construction industry? Is it a new player or an established and respected company? Does the vendor count on strong references? Third consideration, service portfolio offer. Support and consulting services are needed for any system implementation to ensure that it is used by all project and company stakeholders. Another point of consideration is the financial stability. Company needs to partner with a stable vendor to support and scale the solution to the company's needs. Security standards. Information management is inherently tied to security concern when implementing cloud-based systems like the CDEs. Encryption to ensure that data cannot be read while it is being transmitted, and strong authentication mechanisms are measures any vendor should put in place to comply with the strictest security standards. The login to the CDE should be performed with strong password protocol and even the possible two-factor authentication mechanisms. Industry standard certificates. The CDE and all the infrastructure and processes around it needs to be certified accordingly to the international acceptable standards for information management. The most commonly employed certificate is the ISO 27001, and it requires the vendor to undergo regular security audits performed by external auditor to prove data ability, data integrity, and data confidentiality has been assured. Data protection law compliance and infrastructure location or facility location. The General Data Protection Regulation comes as an important topic in a collaborative environment, and it may be a decisive factor and a disqualifier for certain vendors and their solution. It depends on the client's location and under which regulation they fall. For example, if we are talking about European clients, the CDE vendor will have to comply with the European regulations of the General Data Protection Regulation. It will have to prove that its facilities or data centers are located within the EU borders and the data stored and shared does not cross these borders. We also need to look into the business and the procurement model for the CDE. The total cost of ownership is something to consider carefully in all scenarios. CDE for a single project, for a program of projects, or for the whole organization, as well as for the design construction stage only, or extended through the asset management. Different models can be offered. A project fee for unlimited users, or user-based fees. When deciding on the right model, it is important to think of the project characteristics, project team size, and foresee how the team may grow or decrease in size in the future. An enterprise-level implementation is usually considered with unlimited user model. On the other hand, A CDE that covers only design and construction may consider a user-based model. An important aspect is the procurement approach. The CDA may be bought either by the employer or by the main contractor or the lead designer, depending on the scope of the CDE itself. When the CDE is provided as a service by the supply chain, it is important that the employer covers the expectation of the CDE in the EIR, including the business model chosen. In terms of the functional requirements, accessibility is one of the key issues. The CDE should be a web-based system that can be accessed from anywhere, at any time, without the need to install additional software via any internet browser from any device. It should be independent from the company's IT ecosystem to avoid external parties having access to the internal systems. One must also look into the information management capabilities as part of the functional requirements. Construction projects generate different types of informations: drawings, BIM models, calculations, lists, so on and so forth. The CDE should not limit the type of information and data format that can be handled. In addition, it has to be metadata driven to allow for information structures and classification. File naming conventions and auto-numbering to ensure information is uniquely identified across all stages of the project and the build asset. Revision and version management to allow for full audit trail of the information created and managed among the team members. The CDE must allow users to connect different types of information. For example, BIM model with its 2D drawings or documents. Online viewing of the information stored and shared in the CDE. For BIM models, the online viewer should allow a minimum set of features such as navigation, measuring tools, sections, markups, and you will open online at least open formats. For example, the IFC or the BFC format. Advanced search and filtering capabilities. We also need to look into the workflow management capabilities. If the BIM project is organized and structured as per the ISO 19650 standard, the information will be created and shared in multi-level processes. The CDE should allow for this workflow to be implemented and managed digitally, both manually and automatically. BIM workflows related to issues raised in the coordination or review processes. In terms of the access rights management, the CDE is a common space where all the project team members who belong to different organizations meet. Flexible mechanisms for right access must be available to ensure information is shared and accessed according to the roles and responsibility of each member. Access rights needs to be managed carefully. Different levels are necessary for different stakeholders depending on many criteria. For example, information type, status, position in the workflow, and information life cycle. We have to ensure that our chosen CDE system can allow for field application. Bridging the gap between the office and construction site is essential. Specific interface for mobile devices or specific apps can facilitate data access, data capture, and continuity of workflow or tasks. Usually these apps work offline with the possibility to synchronize with the CDE once connection is established. We also need to look into communications management. The CDE's purpose is to be considered the unique source of truth for the project. This includes also the communications which takes place among the different team members. In addition, proactive communications such as notification alerts and reminders are extremely useful. We also need to look into connections, integrations with other systems, and APIs. Data is produced in different systems and then exchanged and shared within the CDE. Connectors plugins or API-based integration with other systems can prove a great help in providing easier access or automatic data exchange and updating. The CDE should be based on open standards to ensure easy communication and external systems. For BIM data, connectors with model checking software or schedules and cost systems, whether 4D or 5D, are useful as they streamline the review and project management workflows. Reporting capabilities of data managed in CDE and the status of the corresponding activities are needed to provide instant and visual overview of the project progress. Archiving is important too. When the project ends or it moves through phases, any companies may require an archive of the project to have a truthful copy of what has happened in the project, how the information evolved, how decisions were made, and the histories of all communications. This archive should contain all data, documents, communication, workflow items, timestamps of all actions, and all links created amongst the data. It is important to note that a CDE is rarely one single system or software platform. The word environment in a common data environment is the key. This environment generally comprises of a system of systems. During the design and construction phase, often known as the capital expenditure or CapEx phase of the project, teams will be working with the project information models. This can include graphical and non-graphical data as well as associated documents. The design team might have their own project information models, and the contractor might also have their own. Over time, an asset information model is also being produced, which will be used in the end by the client to manage the completed piece of infrastructure upon handing over. Information will flow between these separate information models. This diagram shows you a breakdown of the CDE content. You have the common data environment, which actually include the various project information models, as well as the asset information models, which will change as they get developed from the initial phase of the project right until the completion phase of the project. Within all these project information models and the asset information models, you will have both graphical data and non-graphical data as well as associated documents. And when you break them down further, it can then come in a form of 2D CAD drawings, 3D models, schedules, specifications or costings, manuals, warranties, and all these come in different file formats.